Smile, meet, chat, join for networking.
Hi there everybody, my name is Arwyn Bailey. I am a Time Lord. I dress as a Time Lord, I think like a Time Lord, and I'm a photographer. I capture moments in time. But what I want to do, well, what I sometimes do is capture moments in time on little tools like this, old vintage cameras. This is a 1920s camera, and it's film. You can't look at the results straight away. But what I want to do today is just take you back a short part of my timeline. In January 2010, I realised that I hadn't got the appointment card for my annual checks for bladder cancer that I'd contracted about 13 years earlier, 13, 14 years. And I thought, great, no more doctors, and there are lots of other little things going on with me that I needed to sort out. But that didn't last long, because in May that year, I had enormous stomach pains, suddenly rushed to hospital, morphine to relieve the pain, some of the most pain I've had in my life. You've got diverticulitis and it's full blown. Got that sorted, checks and so on, but then December 2010, another attack came just before Christmas. I stayed out of hospital for a couple of days in absolute agony, went to see the doctor, and she said, if I'd have seen you 2 days ago, I'd have committed to you. And she really laid into me. She said, look, Arwyn, you cannot muck around with this. If the infection breaks away and it bursts, it's septicemia, and then it's often good night Vienna. And she really told me off. Anyway, get that sorted. So that's 2010. And I think, all right, I'm okay now. No more bladder cancer, etc. Didn't last long. April 2011. Partly genetic, my father had this as well, he was skinny as a rake, but partly lifestyle choices of the past. You're type 2 diabetic. Okay, so I get that sorted, get the tablets and so on. That's in the second quarter of 2011. Then December 2011 comes along. Sorry, the bladder cancer's back. Have to go into hospital, have a resection, and this time they cut through the secondary bladder lining of the wall, and 2 weeks afterwards I'm back in hospital in absolute agony again. And that's what's going on in my life, and then I was back in hospital in January 2012. And that's what's going on in my life. And I remember at one point in my life, one of my operations, I am kneeling over the toilet bowl and I'm thinking, I want to be sick, I want to do a poo, and I want to wee. And it was that moment for me, I cried out and I said, God, I don't want my life anymore. I don't want this anymore. I really don't want this. I'm in and out of hospital like a yo-yo. I've been in virtually every department of my local hospital. Nothing major, nothing serious, just these niggling things and so on that happen. But anyway, so I've got the diabetes under control. The bladder cancer, they've gone in through the bladder. I won't tell you how they do it, but imagine with a very small tube. And then they cut it away. And I've had loads of those resections, and the diabetes is under control. So that's January 2012. Then in July that year, I go to the doctor with a bad cough, and I've got bronchial scar tissue on my left lung. Antibiotics don't touch it. It eventually goes, but even now I sometimes get a bronchial cough. In the September of 2012, my mother, who is registered blind, and I'd fought because I knew the industry, and I was a financial advisor at the time, I knew the industry, and basically I fought to get her into a care home. She had no sight in one eye, only 40% in the other eye, and we got her into a care home, the council paying for it. And it took 2.5 years of battling and going to the ombudsman. But in the September, she had a massive stroke, as big as you can have without it killing you. And 10 days later, and I was her power of attorney, and I had to make the decision under medical advisement and with the rest of the family, no food and water, and she passed away. But earlier in 2012, I joined some other people. Robin Williams, Gary Speed, the family of. They committed suicide. My brother in April 2012 also committed suicide. Suicide at the moment in the UK is the biggest killer of men below the age of 45. There's no other disease or thing that kills men more. And in the July that year as well, 2012, I planned my own suicide. And if you've ever been there, and one thing I've learnt is that anyone who commits suicide, it sounds strange, but has no choice. They are in the state of mind where they think they will be better off, but most importantly, those they love will be better off if they're no longer here. And that's a state of mind that I'd got to. A miracle saved me. I'll talk about that another time. So what did I do in September 2012? I'd been thinking of getting out of the financial services business, and so I did. I got rid of my business. My wife, who's been amazing, helped me, and she let me go off, and I went to Ireland to a family cottage, and I saw the sunset over Ireland every day, and we had snow, sleet, rain, gales, everything. And it was amazing, cleared my head. I did some SWOT objectives and SWOT analysis and smart objectives. And I came up with the idea because I'd been taking photographs since I was 4 years old, and I've still got my very first box camera. And I've got a load of vintage cameras now where we train and educate people how to go back to the old school of film as well as digital. So I thought I'll become a photographer rather naively. As some people say, when in business, you sometimes don't know what you're doing. And I really didn't know what I was doing, but I launched into it anyway. And that was in January 2013. And I started getting business and so on. But my mind still was not clear. I used to think if somebody's depressed, just grab life by the balls and get on with it. How wrong have I been? Depression is an illness, it's a disease. You can't just snap out of it, or very few people can. So my wife eventually persuaded me to go to a counsellor. I went to one counsellor I really didn't get on with, and I said to my wife that after about 6 weeks, that's it, in 2012, that's it, I don't want to go anymore. She then persuaded me, and friends and so on persuaded me to go to a counsellor. So in 2013, in January, I started going to a counsellor. And it was CBT counselling, psychodynamic counselling. And the first thing the counsellor said to me is, Arwyn, the word should is banned from your vocabulary. Because the word should says, I'm living in the future, and I should have is living in the past. You've got to live for the present. And somebody recently said, you control the controllable. All of those things that happen to me, I have no control over. I do in a certain extent, diet and so on, and other things, obviously. But other external forces you don't have control over, but you can control the controllable. But I was living with a mask, and I was living either for the future or living with regrets of the past, and I wasn't living with the present. And about 3 months later, she said to me, Arwyn, what you need to do is live for 2 hours. Because I said, well, I've set up this business, I don't know whether it'll work, blah, blah, blah. And she said, live for 2 hours. She said, you're not living in the present. I said, but what happens after the 2 hours? She said, I'll tell you if you want. I said, go on then. She said, death. And it's true. You live in the present, and you live for the present because you don't know how long you've got. So I've been speaking for about 5 minutes. It's still 2 hours to go. But I'm planning for the future. I'm learning from the past, but I'm trying to control the controllable, which is the present. That's all I can control. I can't do anything else. And so I try and live in the moment, enjoy the moment. And other things, so that really helped me. You know, men don't like to admit they're weak, and the thought of going to a counsellor, especially for men, is no. And it took me, I'll tell you, I was dragging and screaming. But from the very first session with the counsellor I got on with, it was like a weight had been lifted off my shoulder. I was talking to somebody who got me. She's very experienced, over 40 years. She works in Harley Street as well, and she's worked with other people, quite famous people. But she's absolutely amazing. And the other thing that helped me personally, this may not relate to you, is my own faith. I'm a Christian, so it's my faith get me through. But sometimes, as I say, that moment, leaning over the bog, I'll go, where are you, God? I just don't want you. But sometimes it helped me. My wife has been incredible because she would walk in and she would not know what mood I was going to be. Because when somebody close to you commits suicide, your confidence goes out the window. And you go around a circle every 5 to 10 minutes initially of, why didn't he tell me? Why didn't I spot it? I'm angry at him. I'm angry at myself. And you're just whizzing around this circle every 10 minutes. And she did not know when she walked in the house how I was coping and how I was feeling. Not at all. So she's been absolutely amazing, and she deserves a medal for putting up with me.
They all do.
Yeah. But what I've learned is that you don't get over bereavement, any form of bereavement, my mum or my brother. Because in December 2015, just gone, a cousin of mine I'd lost contact with, but when we were kids, we were always around their house, they were around ours and so on. She committed suicide. The funeral was in the new year. So in the family, I've had 2 suicides. And it brought back so many memories of childhood, my brother, and so on. Not as intense, because at this moment in my life, I wasn't as close. But nevertheless, it brings it up. What my counsellor said, this is like brain trauma. It's actually affecting the back of the brain here. And it's stacking up. You have to peel it open like an onion and let's start getting the subconscious working again. But what I've learned through all of this, as I say, is about controlling the controllable. And so friends, family, wife, and so on have helped me. Counsellors helped me. But now, I was in business as a financial advisor for about 25, 30 years. I thought I knew everything. Thought I had the experience. Set up a new business, didn't really know what I was doing. So now I'm in a mentoring program. Again, for men, this is quite hard. I need a mentor. I need a group of people I can bounce ideas off. I need to be honest about income levels, etc., etc. I'm now in that group. A guy called John Ketley, who's a member of 4N, who has set up the Sales Masters Guild. He does various training programs. I really do recommend that you look at it. Because I'm now on their Project 16, which is a year-long project where we did the first 2 days, last Friday and Saturday, and now we do monthly from here on in. And it's absolutely an amazing group. And then we're also part of something called the 24/7 Network, which is about social media and so on, a guy called Mick. I'm learning from that straight away. And one thing I learnt in the initial introduction is this. We all have the tools and resources to be successful. Whatever success is to you may not be money. Okay? And I think too much in the world we look at successes. That's a successful businessman because they've got the yacht and so on. That may not be it for you. It's whatever success is for you. For me, it's actually being able to afford the time and resources for a particular charity idea I've got, both overseas and this country. That's success for me. But we all have the resources and tools to be successful. What prevents us is us not being resourceful enough. I dress stupidly, it's a gimmick, it's this year. Okay. And it works. I bet you'll remember me. You may not remember my name, much of what I said and so on, but you'll remember me. That's the photographer guy, the Time Lord. So let's be resourceful. Let's go out the box. Let's be wacky. Okay, let's be silly in business. And the other thing is let's be brave and courageous. I don't know whether you saw, but recently there was a photographer only the other week in America. He's one of the most highly paid photographers in the world for portraiture. He charges for a sitting for a digital image, one image, $120,000. He charges for a print, $30,000 more, $150,000. He takes pictures of potatoes. He's on number 365 because he said they're like the human face and you can express so on. Somebody came in and asked to buy that picture of hash number 365 for $500,000. He said, no. They said 750. He said, no. He said, the price is $1 million. And he sold it for $1 million. Now, I'm not saying I want to take pictures of potatoes and sell them for $1 million or anything like that. But the point is, he has been brave, he's been courageous. He has a queue of people, of celebrities and stars, queuing up outside his studio to take photographs of them, and they pay that money. Now, I'm not saying I want that money or anything. That's not success to me, okay? But the principle is, he's been brave. He's not said, I should. He's not said, I should have. He's not said, I can't. He said, I can. And also, what I've learnt from things like that and this whole course that I'm on at the moment with the Sales Masters Guild, is not, why not me? It's when me. When could I do that in your particular business? When could I be the go-to person for portrait photography in the UK? When could I be that? Not why can't it be me? But when could I be that person? When could you be the mortgage broker? And one of the guys on this course with John Ketley is Barry Mitchell. I knew him many years ago, and that's how I got involved with it. He actually was, within about a year or 2 years, the most successful mortgage broker in the whole of the UK, because he set his mind to it. And he gave a talk at 4N yesterday about martial arts. He's a karate expert, been studying for 40 years, and how he applies martial arts mentality and philosophy to his business life. So, final thing to say is running business, you can go on all the courses and so on and this, that and the other. But at the end of the day, it's down to you as an individual. And what I'd like to finish up with is something that I believe is very key, is don't be academic, be authentic. And if your thing is to go around in jeans and t-shirt and sneakers, like Brad Burton, then do it. If it's to go around like me, do it. Be authentic to you, what you believe. Don't be academic. Think outside the box. Thank you very much. I'm Arwyn Bailey, the Time Lord photographer.
Smile, be chat, join for networking.